it matters in the sense that, we talk about presumptive nominees, and I don't like the phrase that you see a lot of people saying she's captured the Democratic nomination. She hasn't. Yeah. She's clinched the Democratic nomination. Yeah. She hasn't done that either. What she's done is she's secured a combination of pledged delegates that are real and commitments from superdelegates that if those superdelegates vote the way they say they're going to vote, will make her the Democratic nominee. It's not some big surprise. She's, basically since the middle of March, late March, she's been in a position where she was almost certain to be the Democratic nominee. She still is almost certain to be the Democratic nominee, but it has brought home with a high degree of clarity that tonight matters in symbolic ways. The Clinton campaign has spent money and time in California because they think it matters for them to win there. New Jersey matters. The other states all matter, but they matter at a symbolic level, not so much at a practical level. And the big question now is, after the Sanders campaign very unhappy last night with the AP calling it and with other news organizations then getting on board with that. But in the end, tonight, Sanders may or may not win California. But after tonight, she's going to be way ahead in pledged delegates, way ahead in the popular vote, and way ahead in superdelegate commitments. And so the question then will become, what does Bernie Sanders want to do? What role does he want to play in this adopted party of his?
Well, you speak about the symbolism here. It feels like almost the lead buried, the first woman now atop a major party ticket.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And everyone, I think, tonight and tomorrow, as much as we want to focus on the conflict and on the remaining unresolved issues, everyone needs to at least pause for a little while, take a deep breath and say, this is a big deal.
But isn't it interesting, though, that is it because it was a fait accompli? Is it because she's been front and center for so long? Why wasn't that the discussion yesterday?
Well, look, I mean, the news is still relatively brief. It was last night that the thing got called, the race got called. I think there will be the appropriate focus on that going forward. But I do think that unlike Barack Obama, who was a relatively recently as a major national figure in 2008, and the getting to your head around the notion that an African American was going to be the Democratic nominee and ultimately the president, she has been around for a long time. And because of the 2008 fight and how close it was, people kind of psychologically realized that one of two things was going to be historic 8 years ago, either the first African American nominee or the first female nominee. So people have kind of seen this coming for longer, and I think that it has somewhat, in some quarters at least, muted the degree of the sense of big historic moment that might have been felt otherwise.
You would have perhaps assumed that the email controversy, the divisive Democratic campaign, might have gained more traction, but we see, and again, according to a Bloomberg Politics report that came out yesterday on a conference call, we see now the circus surrounding the Trump University lawsuit and the racially charged comments of Donald Trump with regard to the judge in that case sitting there, center stage. Again, in this Bloomberg report, it was suggested that Donald Trump himself said to his surrogates, go out there and attack this judge, continue to attack this judge, attack reporters who call me racist.
Don't just attack them. Say that they are the racists. I am not the racist. They are the racists.
If nothing else, it seems that Hillary Clinton, for all the attacks she made in that speech in San Diego last week, is now can sit back and really let the tepid GOP establishment that had been backing Trump for a bit here do her work for her.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, you think about the Trump campaign right now, and again, given what we learned over the course of the nomination fight with Donald Trump and his ability to seemingly survive the worst, the kind of scandal or controversy that would otherwise destroy most other political candidates, one hesitates to ever say it's now all over for Donald Trump.
This is it.
So I'm not saying that. But this is a different thing that's going on, right? Because Trump had a period of time where he worked to pull the party together to a surprising degree. Although it was fragile and sometimes superficial and reluctant, he got a lot of the Republican establishment to ultimately get behind him, at least nominally. And he's undone so much of that work. He is not. They all sort of were praying, please. Can you just be a little different? Can you be a more traditional nominee, a more traditional Republican? Just professionalize, make the pivot to the general election. Last week was just an unmitigated disaster on that front for Trump, right? Because he basically had, he had the press conference where he attacked the press and went after reporters personally and said, sleazebag, scumbag, went after these reporters. He failed to defend himself when the Trump University thing first came up. He basically, on a week when the IG's report, as you mentioned, Josh, and was bad news for Hillary Clinton, jobs numbers bad for the Democratic cause, Trump didn't spend time talking about that. Instead, he raised the issue of Judge Curiel unprompted. He spent 10 minutes at a rally in San Diego attacking Curiel for no reason, not because there was incoming on this question. I mean, the Trump University thing had come up, but he spent 10 minutes talking about Curiel, attacking him in what is, I think, definitionally a racist way, and then kept doing it all week long. And now, yesterday, according to my colleagues at Bloomberg Politics, is basically tripling down. It's like he set the house on fire and then doused himself in gasoline and then went back in the house and now is looking not just for a match but for a blowtorch. It's like there's and what it's done is, what's different is that there are no Republicans, none, defending him. No one. Everyone is either criticizing him. You now have Lindsey Graham and others saying we should withdraw our endorsements.
Yep.
The fragile sense of unity has all fallen apart.
Love of country trumps our hatred of Hillary.
Yes,
that's a powerful phrase.
And the most un-American, Graham said of Trump that he was the most un-American comment since Joe McCarthy. But again, I think you will see, if you think about, I think there are Republicans who will retract their endorsements. I think some people on his finance committee, again, carefully assembled. He got some big donors together. I think some of them are now having second thoughts and may well decide they don't want to be part of this anymore. This is a thing that has, again, just in terms of him pulling together his own party and being able to go forward with some sense of unity, he's set himself back by months in that effort. Again, doesn't mean he can't be competitive in a general election, doesn't mean he can't somehow right the ship. But today, after this last week, the Trump campaign has had the worst week of the entire Trump campaign over the course of the last 7 days. And it's going to take a lot to try to put it back on the right track. And right now, Trump seems intent to keep going in the opposite direction.
Seems fair to say 3 rings are not enough.
Yes, not enough, yes.
To be sure. John Heilemann, as always, appreciate it.